Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro takes place on the main card of UFC 249, Ferguson versus Gaethje on May the 9th, and I can't wait for this fight. A lot of people are kind of shitting on this one because it's on the main card, and guys like Jacare versus Uriah Hall are on the prelims. However, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't mind this one being on the main card. The guys on the prelims are going to be on free TV. More people are going to watch that than will watch the pay-per-view card live anyway, so you know what? The guys on the prelims are going to get all of their airtime. What's the point? Let's just chuck Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro on the main card. And also, I actually like this fight. Yorgan De Castro is a legit opponent. Undefeated heavyweight. 6-0 now. KO'd Justin Tafa in his last fight. Again, on the main card of a pay-per-view. I love this fight. I really do. I think it's a good test for Greg Hardy. I think it's a great one because even if Greg Hardy loses, now we've got a 7-0 undefeated Yorgan De Castro rather than imagine if Smolyakov beat Greg Hardy and we had to fucking double down on the lifeguard Dmitry Smolyakov. That would just be an embarrassment, but at least this way we've got the star in Greg Hardy up and coming. And we've got a guy that even if he loses to him, we can then transfer some of that star power over to Yorgan De Castro, who's an amazing fighter himself. I feel as though Greg Hardy's going to win this fight, however. I made a prediction for this fight a long time ago when this fight was originally announced. I believe for UFC Columbus it was back then. Jesus Christ, it's been a long time. I made a prediction for this fight. I said Greg Hardy was going to win by decision. Well, actually, I think I said Greg Hardy would finish him. I now no longer think that. I think Greg Hardy's going to win this fight by decision. I just don't see a way Yorgan De Castro gets it done. I know he could catch Greg Hardy. I don't think it's going to happen. I've seen a lot of good stuff from Greg Hardy so far. I think he had a great last performance against Alexander Volkov. No one talks enough about that because that's Alexander Volkov. He annihilated Derek Lewis, and I know Derek Lewis is pretty trash and can have one punch every now and again that changes the duration of a fight, and he's pretty tough. But in terms of fighting ability, Derek Lewis is pretty fucking trash. I understand that Volkov made Derek Lewis look like a fool, but still, Derek Lewis is a top heavyweight. And for people to say that Greg Hardy is trash and not say that Derek Lewis is, or some of these other guys like The Doom, who Alexander Volkov completely annihilated the entire fight, are trash. But they're willing to say Greg Hardy's bad, even though Greg Hardy put up a better fight than both of those legends I just named in the heavyweight division. Hardy is no joke. He is an athletic guy who's willing to learn, and he's improving every single time he goes out there. He fought Alexander Volkov with a broken fucking hand. A fractured hand. And still won the fight. Or didn't still win the fight, but still looked good. He didn't get annihilated. That's Volkov. Volkov annihilates guys. And Greg Hardy looked okay. I'm down. I'm down with Greg Hardy. I think he's going to beat Yorgan De Castro. I think right now a reoccurring prediction statement that I make in these videos is that I'm favouring the athletic guy during a pandemic. The guy who's a natural athlete, who's in better shape, base level, than the other guy is going to thrive under this pandemic training camp, I feel like, because let's be real, no one's training camp right now is going to be the best it's ever been. So I'm not going to like the training camp of a guy who's already not in the best shape in the world. I'm going to prefer it if both of them have bad training camps. I'm going to favour the guy who's already a natural athlete in Greg Hardy. He's got the reach advantage. He's way bigger than Yorgan De Castro. I think he's faster than Yorgan De Castro. And also, as much as people shit on Greg Hardy, he's very educated with his pressure. A lot of people don't give him credit for this. I know that not against best opponents maybe, but Greg Hardy does not leave himself out there to get KO'd. Against Ben Sassoli, he fought a very perfect fight there. I know there was obviously the asthma pump in the third round that was USADA approved, but you know, these things happen. Someone throws in an asthma pump, you take it. That's always happened in MMA. Greg Hardy, the leader of controversy in the UFC, I feel like he's going to win. I just do. I think he's too good. He's too educated with how much he pressures. He keeps his chin well out of danger, which if you notice some of his fights, whenever he goes in on those guys against the cage, he keeps that chin way back. He's got a big reach advantage here in this fight. 188 centimeters for Yorgan De Castro. I think that's less than some lightweights. I'll be honest with you. Yorgan De Castro has not got a good reach advantage for the heavyweight division. But what he does have is a lot of fucking power. But I think if you can't reach anyone with that power, and the guy's got nearly a fucking... How much of a reach advantage is this? Almost a 20 centimeter reach advantage over him. 15 centimeter reach advantage. That's fucking kind of crazy at the heavyweight division. I don't think I'm going to be able to pick Yorgan De Castro here. Just off of just physics. If Greg Hardy does what he has been trained to do, He will never be in the zone of being KO'd by Yorgan De Castro. And a lot of times in Yorgan De Castro's fights, it's guys that underestimate him and just go charging forward and he clips them coming in. We saw that against Justin Tafa, but it's also happened before in his career as well. Guys look at him, they see this pudgy guy that's very small for the division, with very stubby arms, and they think, I'm not going to get cracked by this guy. And they do. Justin Tafa, to be fair to him, fought like an absolute retard against Yorgan De Castro. He blitzed forward, had no regard for Castro's power. Neither did anyone else, to be fair, because until that point, no one really knew who Yorgan De Castro was. So maybe that's a fair play thing for Justin Tafa to maybe underestimate him a little bit. But that power is fucking ridiculous, and Greg Hardy could very easily get KO'd. I just don't think that he's going to. I think now we know that Yorgan De Castro is dangerous. Now Greg Hardy is aware of the massive power. I think he's going to give Yorgan De Castro some respect and just jab his face off. Even if Greg Hardy is not an elite boxer, there are levels of the game in MMA where you just need to know enough sometimes. You only look as good as bad as your opponent is. You know? If that made any sense whatsoever. You only look as good. You look good based on how good your opponent is. You know? Like, guys can look like Mayweather versus someone, but that guy's just trash. They're not actually Mayweather. Against Mayweather, they'd look like complete trash. I think Greg Hardy's going to look really good in this fight because Yorgan De Castro's not going to have him biting on feints. He's not going to stick a jab in his face with that 188 centimeter reach. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it going down Yorgan De Castro's way. I know a lot of people are rooting for De Castro to win because they still don't like Greg Hardy. I understand. He beat his wife. It's a big deal. I get it. I just don't think you can predict fights based on emotion. I think everyone has a good opportunity to pick Yorgan De Castro here if they want to see Greg Hardy get KO'd. I just don't see it happening. He just schooled Ben Sassoli over 3 rounds, did a good job there, didn't get hit by any big shots. Ben Sassoli's a great striker. Good record before he fought Greg Hardy. After he fought Greg Hardy, everyone said Ben Sassoli was trash. He's got a good record before then. I know he just got KO'd again, but either way. Greg Hardy's a very good fighter. I'm looking forward to this one. He's just too big, too rangy. I don't think he can be in harm's way unless he's worse than I think he is. But if you can stay at range against Volkov and have that sort of distance management against a guy with the reach of Volkov in the heavyweight division, the tallest, rangiest heavyweight there is, I think you can keep that same distance management principle and apply it to the Yorgan De Castro fight and stay out of that dangerous range that he has and just completely tear him apart. I wouldn't even be surprised, guys, if Greg Hardy shot a double leg on a off-balance Yorgan De Castro. If Yorgan De Castro was going against the cage the whole time and Greg Hardy was a little bit hesitant about throwing, I wouldn't even mind seeing him try out a double leg because I'll be honest with you guys, it doesn't matter how good you are at jiu-jitsu. And take this from me, personally. Doesn't matter how good you are at jiu-jitsu or wrestling, a fat load of mess is not going to be able to get up off his back. Yorgan De Castro would have problems getting up off of his back on his own. Take away the part that Greg Hardy's going to be on top of him if they do shoot for a takedown, and Greg Hardy does shoot for a takedown. Yorgan De Castro might not be able to get back up off of his back on his own. Now you put a big old 6'5" monstrous Greg Hardy on top of him. I don't think it's going to go well. I think Greg Hardy's going to be looking for some grappling in this fight. I think it's a perfect time for him to employ some of it. I'm speaking too fast for my own good here. Greg Hardy's going to get the job done. You know? Yorgan De Castro's fought some good guys though. And honestly, with some of these heavyweights, there are a lot of good heavyweights around. It's not a shortage of fucking stars in the heavyweight division, because if you look at some of these guys' records, I mean, Greg Hardy fought a guy who was 4-0 at the time when he fought him. Yorgan De Castro's fought some great recorded guys to get into the UFC. It's a very tough thing to get by, but if you're athletic enough and you have that power, you can get into the UFC. I just think Greg Hardy's going to be a little bit too much for him. I really do. I like that Yorgan De Castro took this fight. I think it's very cool. It's a great fight to have on the main card. Again, a lot of people shit on this being on the main card, but I'm okay with it. It gives him a bit of a spotlight. People will shit on this main card, and then next week, and this is the great hypocrisy of the MMA fan, people will shit on Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro being on the main card here. I understand why you would shit on it, because maybe it should be on the prelims or something. But either way, people shit on Hardy versus De Castro being on the main card, and then a week later, those same people will say, there's no fucking stars at heavyweight. It's so boring up here. Too many old guys around. No new blood. It's how you get new blood. You put them in the spotlight. We've been doing this every fucking pay-per-view recently. Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams was on the main card of a pay-per-view. Juan Adams versus Justin Tafa was on the main card of a pay-per-view. I don't think Greg Hardy Adams was on the main card. Either way. Justin Tafa, Juan Adams main card of a pay-per-view. Yorgan De Castro versus Justin Tafa was on the main card of a pay-per-view as well. They're giving these young heavyweights the spotlight that I think that they need right now in that division, and I'm glad that they're doing it. I think Greg Hardy's going to school this guy by decision and just keep a distance management clinic on him. And I know it sounds crazy to mention the words clinic and Greg Hardy because he's not elite in terms of credentials, but if he can keep out of KO power from Volkov and keep out of shot power period of Volkov, because he didn't take many heavy shots in that fight, I think he can apply that same skill to the Yorgan De Castro fight and just have a much easier time doing it. I think he's going to get Yorgan De Castro by unanimous decision, win every single round, back up Yorgan De Castro against the cage, throw some leg kicks, throw some jabs. Nothing but simple shots in the open. When you get him against a cage, look for some big shots. But if you see him starting to load up his hips and see him start looking for those big shots, go straight in for a double leg. Put this fat beast, put him on his back. I don't want to call him too many names because I know they're going to turn right back around and point a finger at me. However, just put him on his back because, you know. I mean, Greg Hardy could win this fight via cardiac arrest. He's got a lot of options here. I think Greg Hardy's going to win. Thank you for watching. A little bit more of an update, an updated prediction video here. I think Greg Hardy wins, and I think the winner of this fight as well has a lot of potential to have a great fight coming up because there are a lot of guys right now in that heavyweight division lingering around. The winner of Ben Rothwell OSP is going to be the week after on a very similar schedule. Maybe the winner of OSP versus Rothwell can take on the winner of Hardy versus De Castro. I know I would be down to see that. And I think if Ben Rothwell's willing to take on a guy from a lower weight division, I would assume that he'd be okay to take on Greg Hardy as well, because Ben Rothwell earns a pretty penny for himself anyway. And Greg Hardy, to be fair, is not like Ngannou rising through the ranks. So he's a little bit more of a achievable prospect to beat if you're one of these old clingers on. I also think Todd Duffy would be a great candidate for an opponent for the winner of this fight. He's coming off that bitch out moment where he kind of just found his way out of a fight after being rocked against, I can't remember the fucking guy's name, Jeff Hughes, I believe it was. It was a weird fight. He got eye poked, whatever. I fucking get it. But there's a bunch of heavyweights around right now. Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro is on the main card. I'm glad. It's going to get less viewers than the prelims anyway, so I don't know why guys are so angry about it. But you know what? Greg Hardy, Yorgan De Castro, I'm looking forward to it. I think Hardy's just got, I think he's got him. I see Yorgan De Castro. I see him winning fights against good guys, but I see those good guys run head first, chin first into him like Derek fucking Brunson at heavyweight and get chinned. Greg Hardy doesn't do that, and he's not going to do that now. Like and subscribe. Also, Greg Hardy's coming off 2 losses, basically. No contest to Ben Sassoli, even though it was a win. No contest, and now a loss to Alexander Volkov. All of a sudden, his back's against the wall. He's got to win this one, because if he loses, he'll be 5-3. And only records of 5-3 are allowed in the UFC women's flyweight or bantamweight division. So, unless he wants to get a sex change and chop off all his limbs and just be a moving head and torso and join the women's division, I don't know. Greg Hardy needs to win. 6-2, a little bit more of a commendable record. Still not the best in the world, but I think he's going to beat Yorgan De Castro. Looking forward to it though. Fireworks. Can't wait. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I think Greg Hardy wins by decision. Click that button there. See you later. Goodbye.